GAC is definitely on a roll. Now, barely a year into the market and releasing 5 new models to the market, they come out and release this. This is the GS3, and it's the smallest crossover in the range, and that's also their most affordable one. What's it like, you ask? Well, let's find out together, shall we? Now, first we start off with the exterior. Now, I have to say that it's refreshing to see a car with a slim grille and a slim set of headlights. We're now in an era of gaping maws and sort of weirdly angled headlights, and it's just nice to see something that looks more on the conventional side. But that doesn't mean that it's bland. Of course, helped by the striking shade of beeswax yellow, you can see more of the styling details of the GS3. You have that clamshell hood, much like you'll see on something like a Range Rover or stuff like that. And you have these contoured bumpers with creases and edges to highlight its aggressiveness. Also, the sides are an exercise in minimalism. There is one design feature that sort of caught my attention, and that's the rear window. And by the rear window, I mean the last set of windows. It gives the car a floating roof design, and I say it adds a bit of zing and flair to the otherwise clean-looking exterior. Now for the rear, it's a bit like the GS4. License plate is located on the bumper rather than on the tailgate. But it does give the GS3 that wider-looking stance when you look at it dead-on from the rear. Of course, this also means that it has a wider-looking opening. And what I like about it is you get the impression that this car does have some presence on the road, even when you look at it from the back. And it's certainly pretty unique, especially with those infinity rings right in the LED taillight pattern. All in all, I have to say it's a handsome looking car, and well, I'm actually surprised by how small it is, given how the GS4 is actually a bit on the long side. Of course, this is a Chinese car, and the Chinese love their legroom, so I'm expecting a lot when I sit inside here. Now, badge snobs won't believe their eyes when they step inside the GS3. That's mainly because the look of the dash looks really modern and contemporary. What I like about the interior too is it has soft touch materials all around. Now granted, the top of the dash is hard and so is the top of the door cards, but where your hands usually go, it's actually nice and deft to touch. Speaking of things to touch, the buttons down here, well, they're more deft, and it feels like it's damped as well. So again, there's that premium feeling when you start pressing on the buttons and all that. And you should banish all your connotations of Chinese cars feeling clunky and cheap and all that, because this doesn't. It actually feels pretty premium. Now I'm looking at the instrument cluster, and well, so far it looks pretty conventional. But when you start it up, it has, well, your usual multi-information display, your fuel economy, your trip, and all that. However, what's different about this is it has a tire pressure monitoring system, which is something uncommon in its class. At the same time, you'll even know the temperature of the air inside your tires, your real-time fuel economy, which is always handy when you're out cruising. As this is a crossover, you expect a lot of storage bins. So of course, there's one under the climate control. You have cup holders here. You have a slim, handy holder here, probably for your cards and parking tickets. But what I did find amusing is right here by the door. Now, it's a very small pocket. Again, probably you keep small gubbins in there and stuff. Although I thought of actually putting the key right there, so you don't forget it. Now, of course, this, again, I mentioned this is a Chinese car, and the Chinese absolutely love their legroom. And in terms of space, I have loads of it here in front. There's actually enough room for my legs here, and I'm actually seated pretty close to the steering wheel because, well, I'm not that tall. And there's enough wiggle room for you to be comfortable in. One thing I do wish is that the GS3 would come with a telescopic steering wheel. I said this before that it's better to have a telescopic wheel because at least you don't have to stretch your arms out, because right now I feel like my arms are, well, stretched out pretty far, but the pedal placement is actually just right. So it's either you adjust your backrests or the tilt of the steering wheel. So that's the front covered. Time to check out the back. So the footprint of the GS3 may be no larger than your typical subcompact hatch, but it sure doesn't feel that way when you're seated at the back. As you can see, there's buckets of legroom here, and if I sit up straight, lots of headroom too. Of course, taller occupants won't have the same sensation of space as I do, but it still has about this much headroom. That's a good couple of inches right there. So let's say as long as you're below 6 foot tall, you're totally going to be fine at the back of this GS3. Cup holders here at the back, always handy, as well as a pair of bottle holders on each door. What I do like is the storage pockets. Now, rather than just your typical one pocket, it has 3, so you could slot in your mobile phone or your other gadgets here without really having to dig for it in the main pocket. And as a bonus, it even comes with a USB port below the rear air conditioning vents. So, rear space, all good. What about the luggage? Now, so it may be small on the outside, but looking at the cargo area, I have to say that this can easily fit a large cooler and a couple of overnight bags, or in this case, a whole Pelican case with camera gear, with room to spare, as you can see. If that's not enough for you and you don't want your loose items flying around, there are pockets in each side of the cargo area, and for added security, you even have this cargo cover to hide things in plain sight. All in all, looks like a pretty practical proposition. The GS3 is powered by a 1.3-liter turbocharged engine that's good for 136 horsepower and 202 Newton meters of torque. What it feels like is more of a naturally aspirated 1.5-liter engine. And that's mainly because the engine feels like it's geared more towards fuel economy than actual outright performance. And naturally, that throttle response could use a bit more improvement too, because I actually thought I was on eco mode when I was driving this car. Turns out this is on normal mode. So actually, if you put it on eco, it takes much longer for the engine to wake up. Of course, eco mode is good if you're cruising out on the highway, but if you need immediate get up and go, well, I advise you put it in normal and put it into sport mode, just to have that extra bit of juice so you could pass the semi you're trying to overtake. Of course, more important is fuel economy, and we've had this car for a few days, mix of light, heavy traffic and all that, and so far that mixed cycle has returned about 9 kilometers per liter. Now you may say that's not exactly stellar if you were, say, in a small sedan, but given that crossovers tend to be heavier, this is actually not half bad. It's almost diesel-like even in city traffic. And of course, that's what you look for in a city runabout: fuel efficiency, more than 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. Now onto the transmission, because it's focused more on fuel economy than actual performance and acceleration. It does tend to upshift quickly and downshift rather reluctantly because it wants to save that extra bit of milliliters of fuel, so to speak. But again, because of that orientation, well, again, just don't expect fast acceleration numbers from this car. Well, what else is there to say? Well, I have to say the air conditioning is pretty cold, considering it's about 35 degrees at the moment, according to the car at least. And, well, the huge window area makes it pretty good for visibility, except when you get to the rear part. Normally, these small crossovers have a huge chunky rear pillar, which sort of compromises rear visibility. But thankfully, there is a reverse camera and sensors to aid you. And because it's so small, it's very easy to park, and you're also helped by that light steering. So you actually have no excuse to knock into anything when you're parallel parking in this one. I also have to say that the GS3 is reasonably quiet inside, and you're pretty well insulated. You don't hear much of the motorcycles and the buses honking outside. I'm not saying you're looking at sort of Mercedes S-Class levels. That's a totally different league. But the GS3, for what it is fairly quiet. The thing you'll hear the most, though, is the tire hum, and that's mainly down to the tire choice rather than the car itself. And another thing is, when you run over a bump in this thing, it's a solid thub sound. It doesn't rattle, it doesn't clunk around, so you have that feeling of that little bit more solidity in this car. So, well, as far as GAC goes, China cars don't necessarily have to sound clunky or junky. So what do we think of the GS3? Well, it's practical, there's loads of space inside, it's a pretty handsome looking thing too, and efficient. Now at 1,058,000 pesos, this is what you get, the top of the line model. Now, if you don't want to spend that much for your car, there's even a variant of this for 888,000 pesos. You get the same amount of space and an automatic transmission. So regardless of which variant you get, you are getting a solid deal out of this car. Good value? Definitely.